Hello for our fourth session this week. And talking about business of self, today I'm going to be with Diana Landborg that I've been friends with for quite some time. Few years. COVID has brought us together, to be honest. And there are so many things I would like to talk about. I'm going to get her in and then get you started with what we're going to talk about and what today's theme is all about. Let's see. I think it's coming. Hello. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Very good. So here we are with Diana Landborg and myself, Raditya Lazary from Mindful Being. And I wanted to just give a little bit of a, not necessarily a recap, but just like an introduction of today's conversation. As you might see, I have titled this Life Being Ourselves, which actually is something that Diana and I have discussed in length in different varieties and different issues and different scenarios. And I wanted to really explore this and how this falls into this business of self, because at the end of the day, how we hold ourselves in our everyday can be represented as something that other people might think we should be like. Maybe something that we were raised to believe that this is how we're supposed to be. And then as we're getting older, we're starting to having this greater challenge within ourselves of having these internal conversations, even of like, is this really who I am, the person that I'm representing, or is there something else at stake? Is there something else that is actually happening right now? And I think this is really where Diana and I can go in a little bit of depth, because 30 minutes that never going to give you enough depth, but definitely depth. But it's going to give us enough to get an idea to really discuss on what it means to be ourselves and the challenge that we're finding to be ourselves in the world that we're living in. And so welcome, Diana. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, feel free to say anything that comes to mind as we are starting our conversation today.
Thank you, dear Aditya. Well, I'm happy to be here. So, hello, everyone. And thank you for this introduction. And yes, being true to oneself, it really comes close to my heart, as you know, dear Aditya. And it's not always easy, no. And just for the ones who don't know me, I just can say like this, that through my life, I thought I knew who I was. I thought I was doing what I wanted. And I mean, no one was pressuring me, but this programming of, society. I mean, I had wonderful parents, but I mean, society more actually, and my surrounding made that I thought I would just be worthy and successful if I was successful at work and was making money. And I know I was even like, dismissive about people staying at home because it's not the tradition in my home country, Lithuania, or in Sweden, because here is everyone is working and women's rights are strong and everyone has to work and, be independent and stuff like that. So I was doing the same. I was pushing myself, I was studying, I was working, but I wasn't doing what I wanted in my heart. I wasn't working in the place where I wanted. I just kind of got into a wrong place. And then I got burned out once. And then I changed my life, I thought, and I did things and I started to work where I thought it was fitting me, and it did, but my body wasn't healed enough. And I burned out again. But it was also because I thought I have to go back to the working life to be worthy, to be of worthy just of being, and was pushing myself way too early in my illness. So it took me a very long time to accept myself for who I am, and actually to accept myself that I actually enjoyed being a stay-home mom, which in my society where I live, it's not really accepted. So it's been a challenge, and it's been up and down for me actually to accept it too sometimes, especially when I'm low in energy and stressed out or tired. Then those thoughts still come up, that I'm but on the other hand, when I, sit with my kids in the sofa and they are preteen and teen, and we can still sit together and watch TV and have cuddle together and have a beautiful time, it feels that that's what's worked for me. So that's why I put my energy, and I'm happy that I do, because with my limited amount of energy, I wouldn't be willing to put that anywhere else. But of course, there is another part of me who wants to help other people. I see so many people struggling, and now I have come to a place where I feel so much better in myself, and I want to help others. But sometimes I struggle still to find this balance, of helping others. When you were talking with the Swati, I heard, just like helping others and also taking care of myself, so I don't deplete myself again, because I know myself and I have these, I love helping others, but to set the healthy boundaries, it's been a challenge as well. So yeah, that's what comes.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love what came up for you, because when we talk about being ourselves, and you just painted that beautiful picture, and beautiful not meaning perfect, right? Like really this truthful picture, because the only way to know or how to be ourselves is to know who we are, right? And that, in the discussion I had yesterday with Lisa and with Swati, is really like the way to find out who we are is only possible when we take the time. And it's not like, oh, I have to know it when I'm a teenager, I have to know it when I'm in my 20s, I have to know it when I'm in my 30s, and we are here in our 40s, right? It's like, no, you never actually know this is it, this is me, right? This fixed mindset, this fixed like way of being, like that yesterday when we were talking with Lisa, it's like this expansion of who we actually are. And like with everyone I spoke this whole week, it really is this, like there's only so much we know about ourselves, which is this moment, everything in the past, right, up until now. There is a whole lot of in the future, we hope, right, that there is things to discover about ourselves. But before we go there, and before we go there, I really want you to also describe maybe more in detail on like how was this, as I was mentioning it, about this struggle of like, okay, I thought I know who I was, but then discovering that like, oh no, I didn't actually know who I was or who I want to be. And like, how did that show up within you? I mean, you said it kind of showed up through the work, that you got overly extended in your giving, but then there has to be something else that happened internally that showcase like, no, there is something else you want to look at here.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of the sorry, one of the things that was I was chasing, the outside appreciation, by doing things and getting, appreciation, because I was good at what I was doing, but I wasn't feeling it inside of me. It was the missing part, because I thought that I will be worthy if I have appreciation from outside. But inside of me, I actually hated myself. I didn't like the person I become, because I adapted to my surroundings so much and adapted to that culture, what was in my working space, and had this attitude and stuff, just to be being taken seriously by people, so I could do the career, because that's what I thought the success was, because that's what I thought a successful life was and a successful person was. And when you are successful, then you are worthy somehow. So it took me a very long time and many years in searching in myself, and to understand that until I accept myself and love myself as who I am, no one and nothing that I do will give me that satisfaction from outside. It will give me shortly, but it will disappear again, and I will be chasing it again and again and again in different settings. But now I feel like, I'm in a place where I'm very happy where I am, and I'm happy that I can say that I'm happy staying at home mom with my kids and being there for my family. It's been really tough 2 years, and just being there for everyone who needed it in my close relationships, and feeling that I can be there and support them, and also still take care of myself, and just feel worthy of anything what's happening, and taking life as it comes. And also I'm studying now to be a hypnotherapist and stress stress therapists just to help others, you know, to come to that point that it's okay, you know, that we are enough as we are. We don't have to do a lot of things to be worthy of life or to be worthy of love. You know, we are beautiful and loved as we are as human beings just because we exist. And then when we get there, it will be easier to follow your heart. It will be easier to listen and to hear what it's saying without this all the noise from outside, which has been, you know, and I mean, I still had those fights in my head, you know, two different voices. Yeah, but you should do this and that, and you still have to earn more money, you know, so you can help out. And then another one, yeah, when will time will be right, I will do that. But for a moment, I put my energy in something else. But it's still as valued as working somewhere and getting physical money. I mean, I'm helping out but for my kids, I'm helping out with my parents-in-law. I help them out for my husband and some supporting him and other stuff. I mean, yeah, it's my choice. But in the heart, it feels right, you know.
Yeah, I think
Then it's
that,
easy.
you know, there's so many great things that you were touching on. I mean, the first thing that really popped into my head as you were speaking was really like, we have created this delusion of what we really should be focusing on, which is this external part, right? Like, oh, I want to focus towards the outside because that's where we receive information from. Like, our senses receive everything from the outside, which is correct. But most of the time we leave it at that, and then we let the internal stuff to figure out what's going on in the inside, and then whatever comes out, these choices that we're making, these actions that we're taking, might be just on that external part. It hasn't really gone through that internal check-in. And the other thing that came up when you were talking about, like, oh, I too still have these two voices in my head. I mean, we literally have two brains that communicate with each other. So it's not even something we're making up. Every one of us will have these opposing conversations because we have a left and a right brain that are separate from each other, and through this corpuscle callosum is connected, that is sending back and forth these informations. And depending on how much we're focused on the outside world, we let that left brain override that right brain, right?
Yeah.
Or the right hemisphere, to say the right terms here. And so I think that's really, really necessary to acknowledge that it's not our personal fault that we don't know how to touch on this internal, you know, confusion, let's say. And what I hear also say is like, we need, and maybe you didn't really say this, but I'm thinking about all the other conversations, that it's like, we need to bring ourselves to a moment of silence, or a moment of like, and kind of what you said about the noises, like we need to turn off these noises from the outside so we can actually hear these voices from the inside. So we're not overwhelmed with what the external world is demanding from us, but that we can actually make a smarter choice of what's actually true for me, inside of me. And additional to that, and I think this is where you can really, you know, continue the conversation, be okay with that discomfort that will come up, that what you're feeling inside is not matching what the expectations are on the outside.
Yeah, and especially this one, you know, staying at home. And I mean, I'm sometimes feeling like a black sheep, especially if I go to a party or something and everyone is working. And I mean, I was a career woman, so most of my, you know, surrounding, my people who I know are career people. So of course I feel like a black sheep, and sometimes when I'm tired, I feel less worthy then. But then I remind myself, why? No, I shouldn't. I mean, I do what I feel is best for me and for my family, and that's what's important for me. And I mean, I'm helping people, guiding them in different ways. I'm volunteering at Mind Valley, and I'm talking with you, Raditya, and trying to help people feel better in other ways, and studying things to aid others who are in the similar situation. So I mean, it's my path, which I'm passionate about and feeling ongoing. And when you talked about, you know, silencing the mind, oh my God, yes, because I've been the person who was really affected by everyone else's opinions. I mean, I was raised to respect and listen to wiser elders and take their advices, which is wise, it is. But also, I kind of was raised in the Soviet Union to ignore my own, because thinking of yourself, it was egoistic and not good, and actually to do everything what society needs or what everyone else needs. And there's so many needs outside and so much information what's coming at us all the time, and my brain gets really, especially after burnouts, it just gets overwhelmed. So for me, the thing is, when I'm feeling like that, then I know it's time for me to take care of myself, and I go to nature. I go swimming in cold water. I take walks. I bicycle, and I do qigong, and breath has been, as you know, big part of it. When I feel it, I just focus on my body and my breath and just relax my nervous system, and it helps me to, you know, vocabulary, change everything, and just listen to my own voice, and shut down this voice around me, and just get more centered. And then I know when I'm more centered, I take more rational and good decisions that fits me. And then I make decisions from my heart. I don't get as, you know, burned out or as stressed or as anxious, because it feels right and I feel centered, and I listen to what's right for me. Because it's so easy, especially nowadays with social media, and there's so much information coming at us all the time. It's sometimes so hard to hear our own voice. So that's why I find it so important to switch it off. We grew up, but we have those, you know, things at home that we let them until that time clock, and then we shut it down, and we don't let them sit with their phones in the evening in their beds, nothing like that, because we know importance of, you know, the brain. I mean, I've read so much about the body, about the brain, about everything, how it works, and importance of our brains just to relax and just to listen to our voice, and also importance of connection in a family and connection with friends. That's also one of the things that helped me heal so much, you know, meeting you, Raditya, and like-minded people at Mind Valley who've been also through their own journeys, and, you know, that just feeling that you are not alone, and yet that you can talk about these things openly, open-heartedly, without fearing that people will talk, what they will say about you, you know, just feeling supported. That's been a major thing also in my journey to healing, and also be sure of myself and starting loving myself again, you know, just trusting myself again. It's been amazing, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, and it's like interesting because the funny thing, one funny thing happens. I have this 1 hour, you know, like pause. If I did something for 1 hour that includes social media, email, whatever, all these things, right? So it's a 1 hour limit for the day. Not that I'm not using it for the rest of the day, but just like pausing. And as you said, stop whatever social media to stop it or something, it showed up right there. It stopped for me. It's like, here's the sign, you have to stop. So that was really funny, just outside of what you were saying. And then additional to that, I really wonder, you know, like what you obviously have already started a few things. You know, you mentioned like, oh, when I'm feeling a certain way, I know I need to go out into nature, do my cold water baths. I need to, you know, take a bike ride or just go out or do something, right? But if we have been in that mode of working, and it's like our mode and our, you know, our instinct tells us to do what everybody else is doing. How did you start ease into this? Because I don't think you woke up one day and it's like, all right, I'm gonna go out every day now. I feel like there must have been some transition of like going from one extreme to another extreme, or maybe this burnout experience you had was so extreme that you had no choice but to immediately go into it. But I wonder if there is something you can say for people who might not be at a burnout just yet, which I hope they won't, right? Have to go through this to discover it, but something where they noticing they're getting a little bit, you know, too involved with work. They are having a hard time to stop and pause. Like, what is it, an easy way to really begin?
Well, it's funny to say easy way. I'm not sure there is an easy way to begin with, because usually when you are at that place, when you are working and running, so your mind, you are not really suggestible for that kind of information. If someone comes to say, you know, I think it's good for you to take a pause, at that time, that person will be really angry at you and think that you're stupid. I don't need a pause. I'm managing it all. Everything will be fine. It's how I did it. My husband, he was trying to tell me for years, just like you should relax. But I mean, to be honest, when I was doing nothing, I was feeling guilty. Even when I was watching TV, I was feeling guilty. So my mind, when I could relax watching TV, was when I was lying in my husband's lap, or I was watching with my kids. Then I could somehow explain to my mind, yeah, but I'm doing something purposeful. It's good for, you know, connection with my family, and then I could relax. But not before that, when I was in a stressed out state. I just like, I don't have time for this. It's not important. Blah blah blah. And so it's really hard to do it yourself. But yeah, if you notice it and you know that you don't feel well, somehow start to do small things, like small things that make you feel good. Remind yourself about, maybe it's actually good for you to talk to a friend, you know, just call a friend once in a week. Put it in your calendar and do it. Or just, okay, what do I feel good about doing? Maybe I will, you know, go for a walk 10 minutes during the lunchtime after I had lunch before I go back to the office, or whatever you are doing. Just like small changes. Or just like, if you're too overwhelmed with everyone else, it's just like, okay, I take a cup of tea or coffee after lunch and sit in a quiet room for 5 minutes every day and just focus on the coffee without phone or anything. Just like small things. But it's hard to make that change, because for me it was the burnout. It really was a burnout. And then I went to cognitive behavior therapy. I started with yoga, and I thought I was healed. I studied things that I loved, and I started to work with meaningful work in the school with kids. But my old behaviors were there, and I saw the signals again, but I just didn't want to see them. And when my husband pointed it out, I was angry at him. So I wasn't easy to live with. But I mean, yeah, it's not easy. And sometimes you need people around you to remind you of it. But if you notice it yourself, yes, start to put in something small, just like small pauses during the day, things that give you some quiet and something joyful for your soul, something positive, so you can get back to that balance, because we all need this balance between work and leisure, and you know, something that lifts us up, and also just relaxing, you know. Just for me also, it's the breath, of course. It's one of the things that you can do, and it's the one thing when you are doing, and if you awareness of your body, if you notice that you are stressed out and your breathing is like this, when you start noticing these things, just try to relax, just like take just few deep breaths, because we can relax, and then with every out breath you relax your body wherever you are tense, for example. Those small seconds, the more we do them, the easier it will get for us to notice it again and break the cycle of stress and get us back to awareness and have us better balance, I think. So there are things, but yes, supportive surrounding is also very important.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the interesting things that you repeated is like small steps, small steps, right? Whatever you do, it's the small steps. And I feel like bringing it back to being ourselves, I think there is also this not knowing who I am, right? Because I identify myself with my job, with the external parts. So getting to know ourselves is a small, slow process if we haven't done this already for a period of time. So if we're doing this in our midlife, then obviously there's a whole lot of years in the past where we have to, like you were saying, like, oh, you know, there's always going to be some moments where this old behavior is coming up. And I feel like it really is about this actual true awareness that this journey that we are on is to figure out how to be ourselves within all these struggles and challenges that we're coming across on the external world, adding to the internal world, right? Like knowing that it's not about resolving something, because I mean, that's what the examples that you made, there is no solution or a resolution. It's not like if you do this for 5 months, I mean, yes, if you do this every day for 5 months, there will be something that you will notice if you pay attention. If you just do it to do it, it's just becoming another thing, right? It's like people exercising. Yes, you will stay fit, you will stay that, but are you really integrating the whole body mind experience? I think that's what you're also pointing at with these little steps. Is like by doing the little steps, we're not just looking at the end result, because I was saying even with Eva, right, the end result, and I keep saying this in podcasts and such, is like the end result of life is death. And so we can't be focusing on the end result all the time. We have to be focusing on the journey, the now, the next step, the small steps. Because if I focus on, oh, I'm doing these steps to get there, I already lost. Because then once I get there, whatever there is, I will not do this again, right? As soon as I reached my goal of weight loss, for example, and I reached that number, I'm like, all right, I'm good, right? I'm going to stop doing what I was doing because now I can relax and lean back. And that's exactly what we said on Monday. It's like the moment you relax and lean back, and you probably can say something to this to conclude our conversation today, that's when it hits you the hardest. So I want to hear from you, like how this was, because I know that you mentioned like, oh yeah, there was a up and down, which I'm sure is a continuous journey to stay afloat, to make sure I'm not going so deep again, right? So just to paint us that picture on how that looks like and how it has shifted from the first extreme to the second less extreme to the less as you move on.
Yeah, well, I mean, our life is a journey, isn't it? And if I would focus on the death, to be honest, I would be so depressed because there is no meaning then to do anything, you know, if its end goal is, I mean, come on. And I was focused on the death. I was so afraid of the death. It was one of the motors that was driving me to do so much all the time, so quickly, and see things and do things and work and everything at the same time, because I was afraid of dying young. So I wanted to, manage things as fast as could. It was one of the things that there are many different things that led to the burnouts, but it was one of them. So yeah, and up and down. I mean, life will always go up and down. And as you say, I mean, I was on a good place mentally and physically, and I was finally, finding myself, and I was healing my body, and I started to feel back the energy because I was so depleted and exhausted for so many years and depressed. So I found it, and I mean, I was engaged in Mind Valley, and I met you and all the things, and suddenly things started happening around in my family. It's just like my dad got cancer, he was dead. My uncle died. My husband's grandparents, suddenly one died, and another, we had to take care of another who later also died. Just like so many things was just happening around, and my mother-in-law got Alzheimer's now, and just like, what the hell is happening? So yeah, life is happening, and yes, there were ups and downs, but I mean, I'm so just grateful for the things that had happened during my life, and the things that I worked on, and I found this core thing of me, and the place where I can go when it's too much, like my breath, like the qigong, like swimming and cycling in the nature and walking in nature. Those things, they replenish me, and this awareness that I gained during my journey. And when I see myself, getting more stressed, getting more these two voices in my head, I know if I will call a friend like you or someone else, I need maybe to talk it out, or I need just to be for myself in nature, just focus on my inner world and move my body, for example. So I mean, this awareness of myself, that's one of the key things that really helped me, I think, through this journey. Awareness of where I am, what's happening, and what do I need to manage everything what is happening around me, because it's been truly chaotic, and just like yeah. So I think this awareness, it really helps. So as you say, it goes up and down, but it's just slower down, not as deep, hopefully. And it really feels like I feel so much stronger now, even though the many hardships that's happening around us. I just feel stronger, and I know that I will I will manage it. I will dig me out of it. And I know the tools, and I have friends, and I have family, and I'm not alone. This was also one of the things. One of the hardest things it was when I was truly, truly depressed. It was that my brain told me that I was alone. Even though I wasn't, I felt so alone. And that loneliness was so heavy. So just knowing, and I'm telling to everyone I meet, you are not alone. There's always, always, always someone you can call. Or if you don't have anyone, there are, organizations where you can write, and just so you know that you are not alone when things get tough.
I completely appreciate what you are, bringing to the forefront, and the emphasis on you are not alone, because that's also what we discussed on Monday with Eva around loneliness, and that you're actually never alone. Just by saying hello to a stranger on the street makes you have a connection with someone, realizing that you are not alone. It's just a question of how willing are you to show who you are and being yourself towards the outside world, so people can actually connect with you, so people can actually see, like, oh yeah, I am in this with you. Oh yes, I'm going through the same thing just like you. Or at least I have something or someone that has gone through something similar. When we talk about illnesses, for example, I mean, this is one thing that we really connected at some point, very much so, because of what our dads have been going through, right? And as well as losing our dads, very close to each other. And so these things is really like these life happenings is really a sign for us to seek connection, seek each other, because to be ourselves can only be emphasized by recognizing that who we are is enough and good and great and amazing, by knowing this on the inside, which you also emphasized early on in this conversation. And so this is really to remind ourselves that any lack of ourselves that we feel is only a thought that we're having. It's not the truth. We just have to reach out to one another to have it deconfirmed, to let us know that no, this is absolutely not true, and to have a new belief about ourselves, so that we can truly live in our own shoes the way we think we should be. Is there anything else, Diana, you want to say as we're closing out?
No, I'm just been lovely being here with you. So thank you so much, Raditya.
Well, thank you so much, Diana, for being here. Thank you, everyone who has joined us on this call, who's shared with us their thoughts. And they, if you're not now, maybe later. And so, yeah, thank you so much for being here. We have one more of these conversations in a week from now. And trust me when I say this was not the last conversation with any of these speakers, including Diana here today. And we are planning on getting something together where we can come together as a community, where we support one another to move through the times in our lives to become more of who we actually are, and making sure that we have this confirmation from the outside world where this is missing, so that you can confirm it for yourself. So thank you so much for being here, Diana. Thank you, everyone else, for being here, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.